It's time for Enemy Insight, a hard-hitting look behind the curtain at the opponent, breaking down exactly what the Wildcats will face on the field.
And welcome into the first edition of Enemy Insight for the 2025 season on the Cat Attack. Joining us now is the Burger Popper, Omar Rashon Borja, out of Fort Sill, Oklahoma, an Army U.S. Military Academy grad in 2021, and also a writer for Redshirt Sports, as for football, an Army website as well. Here to break down Saturday's matchup as well. So, Omar, just kind of introduce yourself, man. How's everything been going so far?
Yeah, it's been pretty great. Just seeing the college football season. I know we were talking about we mentioned this in a different light, but it's about the journey along the way, and it's like I just love the race to bowl season, seeing each of these teams develop, seeing what storylines develop in week one, what overreactions are made. I know the season's still young, but I mean, there's nothing I love more than just watching a college football game on TV or in person. But it's been good out here, and I'm really excited for this game. We are talking before, which I'm sure there's plenty of stories like this of people that will be in attendance on Saturday. For me, I was born in Fort Riley a year before both my parents got out of the military. My mom took classes at Kansas State while she was enlisted in the military. Didn't end up graduating, just with the timeline and everything. Would later graduate from Assumption College, but man, Army and Kansas State, I grew up, wanting Kansas State to do well just because that connection that my mom had. And of course, loved Army my whole life because both my parents were enlisted, and I thought that Army's football team was actually a team made by the U.S. Army, and I didn't know it was a military academy when I was young, so that took a while to learn. But I'm excited for this, just beyond the Power Five dynamic of it. But yeah, I'm just excited to talk ball. I mean, honestly, just talking ball in general. It could be my Army Black Knights or any school. I'm just excited to talk ball.
Covering a little bit of UMass Minutemen as well with a Mac website too. That's you're just an all around college football guy, and that's what I enjoy. I always enjoy talking with the guys who know ball the most, and you are certainly one of them for sure. And I didn't hesitate. The first guy I was able to think of when looking at K-State and Army. I mean, you were the one. You were the guy right there. But not getting bashed for anything like that. But big picture. Army was an interesting team coming into the season because they capped off their first season in the American last year with the conference title, and just they had a dominant defense. You also had a great quarterback who was on top of the leaderboards, and Bryson Daly, and you also had Kanye Udo as well, who ended up unfortunately transferring to Arizona State. But you still had a lot of really great talent coming into the season. But then you look at last weekend in week one in the game against Tarleton, it seems as if they may have exposed potentially some major growing pains for this Army squad, and this may be potentially more of a transition season for the Black Knights. Well, at least from an outsider standpoint. But tell us a little bit more about what are some of the realistic expectations that Army fans have for the team so far in the 2025 season.
So before the season, I don't think anyone was expecting Army to really, of course, replicate last year's 12-2 conference championship season. I think the realm of possibilities was a solid season, a nice bowl game, especially because the last couple of years, 2024 and this year, the American Conference has given us a solid draw. We avoid Memphis, we avoid USF in both of these years. Really, our toughest test in conference play is UTSA and North Texas, at least before the season. But now at this point, I think it might be an uphill battle to get to a bowl. And that's not to write this team off. But the thing is when you lose so much experience as a service academy, it's a double-edged sword because one, you have players that are experienced in your system that have been practicing behind veteran leaders. And a good example I have of this is John Radigan, who's currently fighting for a roster spot. I think he signed to the practice squad for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a guy that came into his senior year with 6 tackles. Senior year happened during the pandemic. He's also a fellow class of 2021 grad. I never really I never really saw him around campus, to be honest with you, around post. But his senior year, after having just 6 career tackles in his first 3 years, he had 78 tackles during the pandemic year, earned a spot in the Hula Bowl, and he's probably one of our most successful NFL players that are currently in the league out of the few that we have. Like he was an ace special teamer on the Panthers, and on the Seahawks, and so it's like that. It's like when you have players that can learn behind other players that know the right things, or the right way that things are done in the program. That's the advantage that Army, Navy, and Air Force have in the portal era. On the flip side, though, when you have a year like this where you lose so much talent, you lose both of your 1,000-yard rushers, you lose your all-world wide receiver. I guess all-world's an exaggeration for an option offense, but yeah, you lose a receiver that had 20 catches and 20 yards per catch, as well as numerous pieces on defense, including one of your quarters to the transfer portal as well. You can't just reload with a bunch of battle-tested guys, a bunch of like talent from the FCS or other Group of 5 programs. So it's a double-edged sword. I will say that I love Army's way better than the transfer portal way, just because of the emphasis on player development, where it's like, hey, do you want a coaching staff that's not going to give up on you after a year and reload with transfer portal guys? Like, this is the place to be if you want to grow and develop and actually play college football for the coach that recruited you. Excuse me. But I do think there's growing pains, though, too. A lot of those growing pains were in play calling, because there's a lot of play calls on last Friday from the quarterback position. I love Dwayne Coleman. I love the way that he passes the ball. I thought he ran the ball really well, but there's a lot of play calls that you would have called with Bryson Daly. But I think the coaching staff just forgot that Dwayne Coleman weighs 30 pounds less than Bryson Daly. And so I think just growing pains with that, with philosophy. The offensive line has less starters than last year. I think there's only two or three returning starters from the offensive line from last year. So there's a growing curve, or a learning curve there on the offensive line. So defense was supposed to be our more solid unit, but you can tell up front, like, we lost Kyle Lewis, all AAC defensive tackle. And as a result, like, Tarleton had some really big runs throughout the game on offense. And so I think this year is looking, while it looks like a rebuild year, I don't want to lose hope and say that 6-6 or 7-5 isn't unrealistic. But I mean, Friday was alarming, because bowl teams, like AAC bowl teams, sorry, it's not the AAC anymore, American Conference bowl teams, like, should be beating FCS teams, even if they're a top 5 FCS team.
Got the the American and some kind of new mascot now, Soar the Eagle. Soar the Eagle, man. That's some crazy rebranding there, for sure. Wichita State's part of that conference now. It's all over the place, man. I can't keep up anymore. But you did mention actually one thing before we kind of get in it there as well, and I suppose this is kind of an appreciation aspect from a K-State side as well, because I do like the continuity aspect when it comes to NIL, just making sure that you got not only the guys but are able to stick around, but you also are bringing in several of the guys that are able to step in. And it may take a little bit of a process. I've always had the saying that Rome wasn't built in one day, but it's always great, just trying to find ways to develop and grow your guys into leaders that they can be on and off the field. And I think that's what Army and Jeff Monken have done a great job of, for sure, as well. But let's dive into the position groups, and more so to start off with the trenches. Maybe more so towards the offensive front, because this is going to be a completely different offense that K-State has been accustomed to seeing throughout the years. And frankly, the last time that's panned out for them was against Malcolm Perry and the Navy squad in 2019. And boy, Malcolm Perry, he was it all.
Oh yeah,
he was
I'm glad he's not playing for Navy anymore.
Me too, man. Me too. But from an offensive line standpoint, you had some studs that were proven from last year, including Brady Small. I think I want to make sure I pronounce this right, but Paolo Generalia as well.
Yeah, Paolo Generali. Yeah,
Paolo Generali. There you go. But the offense, it seems to be shifting more towards a spread, versatile look. Spreading things out instead of leaning so heavily on the flex bone that they've been known for. Powering straight ahead with the big quarterback. But when it comes to the trenches, what stood out to you the most?
I think for me, just like just how compared to last year, like I said, there's a learning curve. There's 3 new starters on the defensive line or on the offensive line. And I think it's going to be tough. Like those guys are going to need some experience, and they're kind of going to have to, learn on the fly. I mean, Generali and Small, amazing linemen. They're of course on that Joe Moore award-winning line, but the rest of the guys too. Like, I mean, I think what's happening too is all around like Cody Worley, our offensive coordinator, is figuring out like what works with his group of guys. Last year, straight flex bone worked really well for Bryson Daly because you know of his skill set. His skill set, his decision making ability. As of right now, like we did run a lot of flex bone against Tarleton, but Dwayne Coleman's a better passer than Bryson Daly. He's also quicker, a little bit more shifty too, being smaller. So we're working those spread sets. The only thing that might be an issue though is issue with the line would be probably pass pro out of those spread sets because I mean it wasn't often that Army was in passing situations where of course they ran gun, they ran quarterback lead. Like quarterback lead was bread and butter out of shotgun. When he mentioned shotgun spreading things out, it wasn't even spread out. It was a tight formation with the 2 slot backs lined up behind tight ends, and then you motion the slot back as quarterback lead. Like now it's kind of a different kind of, I guess, shotgun look, different kind of blocking look to get used to. If Cody Worley, as our offensive coordinator, wants to spread things out and throw the ball more, because Army didn't find themselves in those situations really often, quite frankly. Like they weren't running 4 wides with our two slot backs in the slot. They weren't running that too often because they just frankly didn't need to because the offense was so efficient last year. So uh, I think it might be a cop out answer, but I think it's just trying new things for a line that has 3 out of 5 new starters.
And as far as the quarterback spot, you mentioned last week Dwayne Coleman. He rushed for over 100 yards, also threw a couple of interceptions as well. But I think from what I heard, I think it was Coleman that started the game, and then it was Cale Helms that came in relief, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make
Yes.
sure I got that right. But Dwayne Coleman, he seems more like the triple option rushing threat in that offense. I suppose kind of heading into this weekend, what's your take on both quarterbacks? Are you seeing that kind of turn into more of a quarterback battle moving forward, or is Coleman likely going to be the main guy heading into this matchup in Manhattan?
So I definitely think it just depends on the injury report, actually, because Coleman was replaced by Helms because he got hurt. But honestly, though, like the situations that Helms was put in overtime, I just don't think he was ready for. So if Dwayne Coleman can go, I think he will go, and he will go. Um, but I think Helms is a little bit bigger. We saw him run for a touchdown, run for a short touchdown um, against Tarleton in a goal line situation. So I mean, I don't think that we'll see kind of a swapping of quarterbacks in goal line situations. I think Helms can be a good starter later on in his career. He's a junior right now, but I just think he's been buried on the depth chart in the past, and he just lacks the experience, and it kind of showed in the late stages of the Tarleton game. So I think Dwayne Coleman is going to be a go. I just think some of the decision making, passing the ball, can be better. I mean, when in doubt, just throw the ball away. One interception wasn't really his fault; it was miscommunication. Our slot back ran the wrong route, but the other one, I mean, you just can't really be forcing balls into coverage.
Yeah. No, actually, one real quick. I also want to mention as well, Ethan Washington as well. He
Oh
was
yeah.
a sophomore who tore his ACL in the first scrimmage as well. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Omar, he was battling with Dwayne Coleman for the quarterback spot. Um, I think he is a different kind of quarterback for Army. What was he? 6'1", 210 pounds, more of an athletic type of guy. I can't necessarily speak for the cadets and the Army fans out there, but I'm sure the Black Knights kind of missed him in the opener.
Yeah, so I think it was firmly. I know that Ethan Washington was competing well with Coleman in the summer. I think Washington's strength comes as a passer. I know from our guy Dano Cabeza, our head writer, our lead guy at As for Football. He said that Ethan Washington throws the ball with more zip from a short pass perspective. That's not to say he has like a stronger arm than Dwayne Coleman, but I think that Washington would have given us maybe a more open playbook if he were to start. But I mean, whoever our guys are who we ride with, right? So I mean, I'll ride with Dwayne Coleman. I'll ride with Kale Helms. If that's who we have available to us. So I do think that the offense might have looked a bit different because from what I've heard too, that Washington wasn't as strong of a runner. So that would have been an interesting situation. But I mean, it is rough, the injury, but it will be interesting to see, like, I guess next year, if Washington competes for the starting job and what the offense would look like with him. But Mish, you're already getting ahead of ourselves talking about 2026.
That's what some of the early struggles will get you. Some overreactions. But I mean, we're early on in the season. But I do wish Ethan Washington nothing but the best, and I'm sure the same sentiment applies for many K-State fans and insiders as well. But looking at the running back position as well, especially again with the triple option offense, it almost feels. And I don't know how you feel about this as well, but it feels positionless at times. I want to say, since the quarterback can act like the quarterback essentially has been kind of a bell cow, and in the last game, Dwayne Coleman, he's basically filled in that role, rushing for again 100 yards. But as for the running backs, Hayden Reed showed some flashes last year. He had, I believe, and he had 27 rushing yards in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. But it seems like they might take more of a committee-esque approach. Against Tarleton, you saw several guys had at least 10 yards or more. But who do you think is most likely to potentially emerge out of a feature back, or do you see that stay more of a running back by committee setup?
Yeah, so I think when the triple option is running well, you don't want to use the slot backs too much, right? Noah Short is an amazing athlete. He's an amazing offensive weapon. I mean, his football IQ is off the charts because he was recruited to play at Army as a cornerback, switched to wide receiver in the 1 year when we ran the spread offense, when we ran like the gun option, I should say, when we ran the gun option offense. He switched to receiver that year, and then now he's a slot back. So his football IQ is off the charts. He's a great weapon, but you typically don't want your slot back having 11 carries per game. And especially you don't want them being as inefficient running the ball as Short was. He had 3.9 yards per carry. I think the sweet spot 6 or 7 yards per carry, because if the option's running well, if the option's doing well, your quarterback is running quarterback lead, like 3, 4 yards a pop. Your fullback's running 4, 5 yards a pop, 3, 4, 5 yards a pop, right? And so we got that at times, but Hayden Reed definitely, like, I'm excited about Hayden Reed still. I mean, he is, I guess, closer to the big running back archetype that Army's kind of been switching over at the fullback position. Kanye Udo was definitely that archetype. Udo did really well in the gun option. Reed did as well. Reed had a 100-yard game against Boston College in 2023. So Reed has great burst to the fullback position. He had 100 yards in the bowl game as well last year too, when Udo was in the portal. So I know Reed will do well, but a trend I've noticed too in doing research for this is, like, whenever the fullbacks aren't consistent, whenever we play teams like, power conference teams like Duke, Wisconsin, or Wake Forest and Notre Dame, like against Duke in 2015, Army's fullbacks had only 14 carries for 54 yards. They're almost like a non-factor that day. Against Wisconsin in 2021, I mean, where we weren't blown out, but the offense was lethargic throughout most of the game. Our fullbacks had 19 carries for 34 yards against the Big Ten front. 2022 wasn't much better against Wake Forest when we lost 45-10, 20 carries for 51 yards at the fullback position. Last year against Notre Dame, Kanye Udo could only muster 35 yards on 10 carries. So, I mean, for Army to do well in this game, they need Hayden Reed to be efficient. They also need Jake Rendina as well, which Rendina is more of a blocking fullback. He's more of like the fullback that you think of when you think of Army fullbacks, like really stout, bulky guys, 5'11", 240 pounds. He was 250, 260 last year, but he shed some weight in a healthy way to get to hit holes quicker. Rendina will be good in short yardage too, but like, you need those guys to be getting 4 yards a carry and keeping Army on schedule and opening up the edge, because Army's not going to win this game running running a wing back motion or slot back motion sweeps because Kansas State's simply too fast. Like we've seen that plenty of times before when we play power 4 teams, power 4, power 5 teams, where we're not going to get those yards on the edge because we're just not fast enough.
Once again, Omar Rashon Borja joining us to discuss K-State and Army. K-State needs to travel to West Point. I feel as if Army got the short end of a stick. I know K-State paid Army $1.1 million, but yeah, I mean, but that stadium over by the Hudson River, Hudson Valley, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and that's kind of been one of the bucket list options for me as well. But I like you have a game, and I mean you have a schedule in 2028 wide open. You could just sacrifice a game, maybe take a little trip to beautiful West Point as well, and get to see the Grandiers as well. But I was a little bit of a tangent as well. I just wanted to get out of the way because
we'd love to have you too. I mean, Oklahoma actually still owes us a trip because they're supposed to come during the pandemic. Yeah, they do. Don't know when that's going to happen, but they still owe us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's again scheduling mishaps from so many big power schools. I'm glad K-State and Army were able to make this work, even with the realignment that Army had as well. But I do want to shift over to the defensive side, and by all accounts, again, Army's defense was elite. Very elite. And you could just see it by looking at the points allowed last year. They finished fourth in the FBS in scoring defense, top 10 in total defense as well, which is exactly where you, speaking as a K-State fan, it'd be exactly where you like K-State to be after what we've seen for the first 2 games of the year. But 6 of their top 10 tacklers, they're back as well. And on paper, the unit can definitely keep Army in several of these games, even when the offense is not clicking, and even despite the recent performance. Do you still think this 2025 version of Army, do you think they can realistically do you think that defensively can they realistically carry them if the offense is still finding their rhythm over the first half of the season?
So I think realistically, yes. I mean, as long as the Army offense is having sustained drives of some sort, if they're like, as long as the Army offense isn't going 3 and out and not giving the defense a breather, but the Army defense against Tarleton showed some really big concerns in the front 7. Tarleton had 192 rushing yards, almost 5 yards a carry. And it's surprising. It's surprising because, like you said, like we have a bunch of returning tacklers, but you could tell that losing our nose tackle, Kyle Lewis, the heart and soul of the defense, like the nucleus, like the actual nucleus and center of the defense, it hurt a lot, honestly. It hurt the front 7. Excuse me, and our linebackers weren't really as free to make tackles early on, even though Andon Thomas had 14 tackles. But I mean, it's tough because I do think that the defense will just continue to improve. But it was concerning how easily Tarleton was able to run the ball against a defensive line that was supposedly more skilled, supposedly more battle tested. So that I think to answer your question, like I think the defense can shoulder the burden because I don't think that the offense will go completely limp. I think that they'll have some sort of sustained drives, a couple first downs at a time, and then punt if that. But even then, there are still concerns.
Yeah. Now, the group that usually often sees the most rotation is the linebacking corps, but it does sound as if Army has 2 really standout guys, and Aiden Thomas, Caleb Fortner as well. You mentioned, I believe they've been brought up on occasion, but can you break down what they bring to this Black Knights defense? Do they set the tone? Are they more coverage focused, or do they just line up and just continue on pounding? Because it sounds like they're 2 very different players as well.
Yeah, so I think what they both offer is that wisdom, that football IQ in quarterbacking a defense. And I think I always mention whenever I talk about Army, whenever I preview Army for other podcasts, other sites, that like there's kind of an archetype of an Army linebacker that's smart, that has a nose for the football, maybe a little bit undersized, but makes up for it with that nose for the football and the smarts. And I think that's what Andon Thomas and Caleb Fortner both have. Like I think they're I think you said that they're different. I think they're similar players. Like they're not so much coverage focused as they are just guys that will just be able just to see a play, see the flow of a play, get to the ball, get to the ball carrier in a timely manner, and then in coverage help out. Just see those holes in coverage and kind of help out in the middle and the intermediate level of the defense. But yeah, the linebacking core too. Like and even if there was turnover in the linebacking position, I'm not as worried about it because of Army's ability to develop good linebackers, like the example of John Radigan that I mentioned earlier on, where it's like because we have guys like that can just step in and know the system, they know it like the back of their hand. They've learned from the guys ahead of them. Like really, it's an issue. But the front seven, or the front three in our 3-4 scheme, like once there's turnover in the three defensive line positions, I think that's when there's trouble. Like we only have one starter returning from last year in Jack Latour. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I suppose another position group for Army in terms of just the big strength and the stability, I would have to say also the secondary, at least based on last year as well. A lot of these, just for the record as well. Some of them are last year as well. But you got cornerback Jaden Mays with 4 interceptions. You got safety Casey Larkin with 3. Two of the leaders in that group. Also another guy, and this is a little bit off topic as well, but I do want to shout out. I found out earlier this weekend, but safety Larry Pickett Jr. Man, who he apparently saved someone from a burning vehicle, which is wild to say the very least. But it's also incredible, man. It's I and to think it happened during this week, like the emotions, I'm not really the most emotional kind of guy, but stories like that, man, it's just I love football. I love football. But
yeah.
looking ahead, do you think the secondary is strong enough to slow down what has been a solid Big 12 passing attack led by Avery Johnson? Keep in mind he's also on a he's coming off of an all-time high of 318 passing yards in the last game. So I'm curious how this Army secondary matches up against more so of a heavier passing attack from K-State than what we've seen in years.
Yeah, so I think the secondary will be just fine. Like you said, like we have two anchors in the secondary in Casey Larkin, who Larkin had, I think it was 4 interceptions last year. And he really plays the center field position that of a safety that you would expect a safety to play. And then also too, Jaden Mays he's really experienced at the cornerback position. He was actually on the Shrine Bowl 1000. So scouts think he's got pro talent. Scouts think that he can run with the best of them. So I'm not too worried, to be honest with you. I think what worries me though is how well the play action can work against Army. Because if you look last year at the Notre Dame game, which is the closest comparison that we have for this Kansas State game in terms of opponent and level and quality and level of opponent, like Notre Dame ran the ball for 9 yards a carry, and because they're able to open up the play action game and able to run the ball with ease, they were really efficient passing the ball. Like Riley Leonard completed 14 of 18 passes against Army. So I feel like if Army is not able to get penetration, on early downs, stop the Kansas State running game, then I think the play action will be an issue, and then will hurt our secondary. But I think our secondary is well equipped. Like Casey Larkin's a ball hawk. Jaden Mays plays tight coverage. He had 2 pass breakups against Tarleton State last week, so I'm not so worried about the secondary.
Now, maybe one area of concern if you are an Army fan, and maybe if you are a K-State fan as well, and I kind of teased this with you, Omar, and this is it's stinging me as well, and it's stinging a lot of insiders as well at K-State. But perhaps the final position group, and the last thing I do want to touch on is special teams, which, like, K-State again has had some of the same issues on their own as well. I also want to bring up Jeff Munkin into this because he's heavily involved in special teams, having served as a special teams coordinator at multiple stops before arriving in West Point. But about those 2 missed kicks against Tarleton, is that more just a one-time thing, or is that something that could be a little bit more of a bigger concern down the road? And I guess from a general standpoint, how does Munkin motivate the team to bounce back from what happened against Tarleton as a come in this Saturday?
Yeah, so motivation is never going to be low with Coach Monken. Just first off, just addressing that comment, like, uh, but motivation is never going to be low with Coach Monken. He is a guy that is always on 10, always on heck 15 if the dial stops at 10. So he's always going to be an intense guy. He's always going to kind of get rid of that rat poison. I think for special teams though, there's kind of a joke too. There's a joke for, I guess, as long as I've been an Army fan about about service academy kickers. Well, not really a joke, but it, like, we haven't had the best kickers at service academies like ever since I've been a kid watching this team since '05. And then I saw that other people notice it too when at the home games when I was a cadet, like, people would joke about, oh man, you can't trust the service academy kicker with anything. We've had some good ones in recent years, especially a shout out Quinn Moretsky. Money Moretsky had some big kicks against Air Force in 2023, had the game-winning field goal in overtime in 2022 against Navy. So I think it's just kind of a growth, like, but it's kind of funny. It's like I was thinking to myself, it's like, man, like, you can't, like, nothing in the kicking game can hurt me after I watched Army miss a field goal as time expired against Michigan back in 2019. Like, nothing can hurt me. That Tarleton kick couldn't hurt me. But I guess I was wrong because it did hurt a little bit. But I think the interesting thing with special teams, I think if there was a concern, it would be blocked kicks because, I mean, like you said, Coach Monken's involved with special teams heavily, and ever since he took over at West Point, like, block punts have been his thing. Like, there was a period of time where, like, when I first started becoming an Army fan in 2005 up till 2013, before Monken was coach, that I had not seen Army block a punt, like, in a game in those 9 seasons. But almost symbolically against Navy in 2014, like, Monken and Army blocked a kick. They blocked a kick against Navy, and it's like a new era of special teams was ushered in where Army routinely blocks kicks. And so I would say that's a concern for Kansas State fans to worry about. We were joking about beforehand about the return game, where it's like I told you that Army just does not return kicks. Like last year, like Lloyd Benson, I know that he's explosive. I want him to have a bigger role in the offense. He's our kick returner, but he also doesn't return kicks because he only had 5 returns. And that's been a thing as long as a fair catch rule has been a thing. Army will fair catch the ball. They'll take the ball at the 25 and they'll do what they do best: play mistake-free football, stay on schedule, and churn clock. So, yeah, I would say don't be worried about the return game. But if you're a Kansas State fan, like, Army likes to rush their kicks.
As far as being worried about the return game, is that more of Army kicking it off towards K-State? Because I think that's where most of my concerns are a little bit. I love Bryce Nornberg, man, but you can't run into your own blocker, your own blocker, and cough up the ball against an FCS squad. The special teams has been all over the place. And frankly, we're kind of getting to a boiling point with the with special teams as well. But you know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. But it's going to be a fun one, Omar. And I think as far as what Jeff Monk can bring in terms of inspiration, maybe a little bit of motivation. Maybe it's I consider as one field, one mission. What's the creed? What's the creed that I heard this creed before, but it's hold the line, rise and fight again, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure what it is, but I mean, I know that I've watched multiple times the post Temple 2017 speech where he's like, I'm gonna fight. It's like I'm gonna fight till I can't fight no more. It's like, when I can't fight no more, I'm gonna lay down, I'm gonna get up, and then I'm gonna fight some more. It's like, I'm gonna lay down and bleed a little, get up, fight some more. So it's like, that there's gonna be that motivation. It's like, and I can't say that the players have been there before because our last Power 5 win was the 2021 Armed Forces Bowl. But I think those players are hungry, like, for lack of a better term. I mean, 2022, they lost to Syracuse. 2023, they lost a heartbreaker to Boston College as a power conference game. And then 2024, lost to Notre Dame. So, that Coach Monken is gonna show everyone. It's like, I guess he got rid of the rat poison and replaced it with stuff that people were saying, that the media was saying, everyone writing off, the Black Knights. So motivation should not be an issue.
Motivation, maybe some additional ones. You got to soar like an eagle sometimes, like soar the eagle. The new
Yeah,
mascot.
like soar the eagle.
There you go. There you go, man. It should be a fun one. 6:00 kick for K-State and Army. Should be a fun one, Omar. I'm looking forward to it. Appreciate you for hopping on as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Just anytime just talking about ball. I mean, I'm excited for this one, and like, I never want Kansas State to do bad just based on my mom's ties with the university. So I mean, yeah, like hopefully both programs are competitive. I mean, the best case scenario is it's not like 2023 Army LSU, because that was
Oh,
I remember telling my mom, like calling my mom, like because we were in a field exercise. I got some time off. I got some time just to talk to family, and telling her, man, like I think the old days are back after seeing the score. But little did I know we would rip off 4 straight wins to end the season. Or was it 4 straight? Yeah, I think we rip off 4 straight wins to end the season, and then have the magical 2024 season. So as long as we're not embarrassed on the national stage, a win would be nice. But man, like if we put on a good performance, I'll be happy.